Good morning, everyone. Welcome to the United Stand. It is me, Faz, bringing you today's morning show. Lots of topics to get onto straight off the back. Jadon Sancho, more drama coming out as Fabrizio Romano has put it out there as well. A little bit of news on Mason Greenwood whilst he is on loan. And I'll be touching on our game that we've just played against Sheffield United, and also speak on the game that is coming on tomorrow. Beth will be bringing you content from Carrington today, so make sure you keep an eye out for that, and I'll be live later on as well with the press conference reaction as well. But let's get straight into this topic. Jadon Sancho, more drama as it seems. It's never ending with this topic, first and foremost. And you know what? It's been so long since the actual incident had occurred. It seems like that the issues between Jadon and Eric and the club is actually bigger than what it originally seemed. Fabrizio Romano's put it up there, and I'm going to bring up the actual quote here, that those close to Jadon Sancho believe he has his own reasons for not apologizing. Now, what are these reasons? I couldn't tell you. I couldn't. He feels that he's been scapegoated, meant for a long time, whether that be by the club or the media. That's only he knows. I mean, is it that we're going to see an interview at some point if he leaves Manchester United, when we can actually find out the truth behind all of this? Erik ten Hag is adamant, and he says in press conferences that everything that needs to be said about this topic has been said. Jadon, no matter however you look at it, in my opinion, Jadon is a big player. He is a big player. He might not be a big player in terms of having won things, but he's definitely a huge asset for Manchester United. We paid a lot of money for Jadon Sancho, and he's on a ridiculously huge contract. Some people will agree or disagree and say he may not have deserved the contract, but hey ho, that's Manchester United for you. But get interactive with me on the chat this morning and let me know what you think of this. A lot of people do seem like they're bored of the Jadon Sancho situation, but when you actually look at it from an outside-the-box perspective, I think this is something I've said before, that this is something that's been brewing for a while. I think ever since Anthony Santos has come into the club, I think Jadon has probably felt that his place in Manchester United is massively under risk. His position, his playing minutes are massively under risk. Jadon, look, Jadon, when he originally came in, Ole had brought him in as a left winger. Ole went on to say, as a right winger. Ole went on to say in an interview that Jadon prefers to play left, but Ole had brought him in for a right winger. Now Eric comes in. Eric then buys Anthony Santos for a huge record fee, and I can imagine only how Jadon feels. Now, the issues would have occurred, and it seems like anyways, that when Anthony doesn't perform, why is Jadon not given the opportunity? That's the biggest question of it all. Is it that favoritism? Is it that Anthony is more suited to Ten Hag's system than Jadon? Is it that Sancho hasn't shown the levels that we expect? The behavior issues, though, is what's more concerning, more than anything else. If a player is not getting the minutes that he thinks he deserves, that's in every club. Every club in the world will have players that are unhappy. That's just bog standard. But the coming to training late, that is not acceptable. The behavior issues, the attitude issues, that's not acceptable. There's, again, two ways to look at it. I'll tell you what. I want to ask a question to everyone, right? And I'd love to know what the people in the chat think, and I'm going to try and read some of it out. How do you think Erik ten Hag's treatment of Jadon Sancho makes other players look at, how does other players look at Eric now? How do you think they look at Eric? Because yes, Jadon has got poor attitude, maybe poor discipline, poor in training. Okay, let's give him let's hold that against him, no problem. But did really and truly Eric need to say the things he said in public? As a manager, you're supposed to be more experienced. You're supposed to be more experienced in the game, in the sport. making a player of that level of asset for a club come out publicly and say that you didn't pick him because his training levels. And yeah, maybe it's not actually something negative that he said, because he said he wanted more football from Eriksen instead of Casemiro. Casemiro hasn't come out and given a statement, has he? But that triggering to say, how is it that triggering for Jadon to come out and put out a statement? For Eric to say his training levels were not there. I didn't pick him because he didn't meet the training criteria. He wasn't up to the training level that I expected. Jadon could have sat back and said, you know what? My gaffer thinks I'm not at that level. I think I am. You know what? Next training session that I go in, I'm going to try harder, or I'm going to have a word with him and say, gaffer, you said in public that my training level isn't acceptable, but you're not saying that to me on the pitch in Carrington. Something somewhere isn't right. Why would Erik ten Hag need to do that publicly? Now, a lot of people say it's his patience running out, right? That, oh, Eric's patience with Jadon has run low, it's thin, it's done, it's finished. But many managers in many clubs have had situations like this where their patience with players are finished. I mean, I remember when Antonio Conte, whilst in Spurs, was talking about players' wages, saying, the players get paid so much and blah, 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 and bringing on points like that. But do you really need to do that? If the situation was where Manchester United were winning and we were performing, or results were going our way, we were further up on the table, I think the collateral damage of all of this would have been much lower, because people would have been, you know what? Yeah, Jadon's not performing. His training levels are not to the level we want, but we're winning. And Jadon is struggling to get into the team because we're winning. From a player's perspective, he's played in pre-season, he feels he's had good moments, and he feels that he's not been given the ample amount of chance to show his abilities. But you can't take away the fact that the player has had discipline issues. Coming late to training is not acceptable by any means at all, not for anyone. Having attitude problems in the changing room or in training is not acceptable by anyone. Let me see. Someone says, he sulks because he wants his spot without wanting to work for it. Jones says that in the chat. I don't think without wanting to work for it. I think he does work for it, but maybe it's not as hard or at the level that the manager wants. Someone says, get rid of Jadon Sancho. Let me see. I think another person says as well that it was favourites FC because Anthony came straight in. Even last season, Anthony missed pre-season. I remember when Anthony originally joined Manchester United, Anthony missed pre-season and he came straight into the team. Favourites aside, though, again, I want to look at things, in a lot of different perspectives. Last season, everybody told me that Anthony Martial was Erik ten Hag's favoured striker. He was his favourite player. He speaks so highly of him. It's just a shame he's not available. But whenever he is, Eric uses him. And that's Erik ten Hag's guy, Anthony Martial. How funny that Anthony Martial is now fit and he can play, but obviously Erik ten Hag has got Rasmus Højlund. And now Anthony Martial doesn't see minutes. I'm sure Anthony Martial would probably feel like, well, Gaffer, last season you used me whenever I was available, but now you've got a star-studded striker, you don't want to use me anymore. But that's football for you, When a manager can utilise you and use you to get wins, you're going to be his favourite player anyways. And I think that's something Jadon Sancho should have considered. And I don't even know what the word I'm looking for, but things work out very funny because soon as Jadon Sancho's put out that statement, someone reminded me, I think soon after Anthony's situation occurred, isn't it, if I'm not mistaken? And Amad Diallo was out injured and Jadon could have had his opportunity to play. You can't tell me who else would have played. It's not like, I don't think Mason Mount or Bruno or whoever would have played the right side. I think Mount was still out injured as well, if I'm not mistaken. So Jadon would have probably seen some minutes in the midst of all of that. And because he had put out that statement, he's now not been able to see the minutes that he could have possibly seen. And maybe some point in his life, he's going to sit there and regret it. That, you know what, yeah, maybe the manager called me out publicly and I feel hard done by. But if I had kept my mouth shut, if I kept it zip, I could have seen some minutes. Robert says he's barely had a good game since he's arrived. Robert, I like this super chat. Thank you for your super chat as well. Get your super chats and your opinions in. I'd love to read some of them out. But Robert, I'll touch on that. You say he's barely had a good game since he arrived. Well, what's funny to me is when a trend is occurring, and the trend is Jadon Sancho's not liked by the majority fan base, everybody's like, oh, he's not performed, he's not done well, he's not done well since he's joined Manchester United. But how funny is it that when Jadon Sancho was getting minutes last season, for example, Liverpool, I remember that great goal that he had scored, pre-seasons, obviously, and the moments that he had, even after his return, after the 3-month away that he was, even after that, the return, the smiles on Ten Hag's face when he had come back as well. Everybody used to say, you know what, wow, this is it. This is the turning point. He's finally performing. He's finally doing well. I remember as well, it was against Fulham when he had scored, Jadon Sancho in the first half, and people were then saying, yeah, this is the Jadon we were looking for. These are the moments we want. He scored against Spurs as well. I remember in the game that we drew, again, people said Jadon Sancho is back. But the trend at that time was that Jadon Sancho is turning it around. It's a trend. I'm deadly serious. You guys, some of you guys would understand this as well, that when the player is looking like they're going to be hot, the whole fan base jumps on it and says, yes, 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 that's the player. And then when things go upside down, everybody's like, no, get rid of it. It's just a trend. Alex with a super chat. Let me just fix my mic. Alex with a super chat says, am I the only one who thinks that since 2013, our style of play is crap? With this, it's not manager change, but total overhaul needed for players. Alex, I like this comment as well. Thank you very much for that comment. I'll be honest, I'm very straight up with all of you, and I try and be myself. I don't like possession-based football. I don't like it. I do not like it one bit. It bores me. I don't find it sexy. It doesn't turn me on. Is it supposed to? Anyways. I just don't like it. I like counter-attacking football. I like end-to-end. I like, you know, Galatasaray game, for example. There was just so much in that game. There's just, you couldn't take your eyes off that game because you knew at any moment something could have happened. Both teams going at each other, aggressive, you know, trying to counter each other, defense to attack, attack to defense. None of this. Hold it out, tempo, slow the game down, tick this, that, keep the ball ticking. It's just not my thing. Yes, counter-attacking football may not be the best system to win titles and trophies in terms of leagues. Counter-attacking football, though, on the other hand, is very good for cup competitions, right? But in the league, okay, and I'll accept it. But I don't like possession-based football. Do you guys? I mean, let me know in the comment. But Alex, you do have a point. Since 2013, we don't have an exact identity. We struggle because circling back to Van Gaal and then all the other men, Jose, you know, Ole, we've not had these managers long enough for those managers to be able to bring in and filter out the players to fully recreate the brand of Manchester United football. We haven't. You know, each and every manager, even after they've had a bit of success, they've been, you know, whatever's happened, results didn't go their way, football wasn't being played to the level we expect, and parted ways. Van Gaal, Jose, Ole, same with all managers, right? And we've had some interim managers in between just to help us out. And this is one of the reasons why people want to keep Erik ten Hag for longer, is to really see it out. Am I enjoying Erik ten Hag football? Absolutely not. Did I enjoy it last season? 100%. There were many games, for example, when we played at home, that I thought we were not going to win, but he made it work. Against all the top 6 teams, he made it work. But he's trying to implement his style this season, and it is boring the hell out of me, and it is frustrating me. Eventually, when we start winning, I'll probably turn around and say, you know what, okay, it works, so I'm happy. But now, at this moment, it's not working. I'm not happy. And many of you feel the same way. How long is it going to take him, though, is the biggest question. How many more windows? Which players? Is he going to get rid of Bruno Fernandes? Is he going to part ways with Marcus Rashford? How are we going to part ways with Jadon Sancho? Which winger does he want next? Because one of the wingers he's brought in, he's not really set the world alight. Let's be deadly honest. Anthony Santos, we want to back. The funny thing is, you know, I'll tell you that as well. Everybody in the chat get involved. We want to back the manager, but a lot of his signings, or some of his signings, let's not say a lot, but some of his signings have been very, very shaky. Am I lying? In the chat, tell me I'm lying. We want to back the manager and see him play out his system, but some of his signings have been very, very shaky. Ricky says, with McTominay scoring goals, makes me think we should have started him as a false 9. He's a player that doesn't get as much touches as Højlund, but he's at the right place at the right time. Thank you very much for that super chat, Ricky. A lot of people, I think Beth included as well, a lot of fans, they are upset, or not upset, but they are like, well, Scott McTominay didn't touch the ball as many times as Amrabat, or he only touched the ball 9 times in a game. I look at it differently. I look at it, and I obviously mentioned in the build-up show, if some of you are watching, if you watched that build-up show as well, I said, you know, Scott McTominay is naturally going to be found further up on the pitch. And it seems like to me, anyways, the way I look at the game is he's actually not supposed to touch the ball as many times anyways. Who would you much rather have the ball on them, Scott McTominay or Amrabat? It is actually Amrabat because he's deeper in. He's going to receive the ball of the goalkeeper. He's going to receive the ball of the centre-back. And he's going to progress it forward. Yes, Scott McTominay should be doing that job and sharing that load as well. But I'll be honest, Scott isn't that good on the ball, is he? I've said it before as well. He, you know, when he tries to walk with the ball or carry the ball forward, he almost overdoes it. And obviously the high physicality, that clearly helped us, and one of the reasons why he scored the goal. Doesn't mean he's a player for Manchester United, though, I'll tell you that, because there's way, way, way better out there. And I just wish Scott McTominay could become the player for us that he sometimes is in Scotland. And another thing as well, how many of you actually sit and watch Scotland's games? Because yes, he scores for Scotland, right? This is another thing I was thinking. Yes, he scores for Scotland and does, you know, wonders. But I actually haven't sat and watched full 90 minutes of Scotland when Scott McTominay plays. So other than the fact that, oh, Scott scores for Scotland, how many touches does he have on average for Scotland? Can anybody tell me in the chat? I would love to know. Does he have more touches on the ball when he plays for Scotland? Is it because the manager is using him in a different position, in a different way? Does he have a bit more free roam when he plays for Scotland? Are the other players accommodating him when he plays for Scotland? These are the questions. People just clip it up and say Scott McTominay's performance for Scotland. Well, you're just clipping up the goals. Let me go back to this. Some more super chats as well. Dawal says, Dalot and Aaron Wan-Bissaka are the ideal players for us playing the same position. They both have been dropped, but worked their way back in without complaining. Dawal, thank you for your super chat. I tell you what, people still prefer Aaron Wan-Bissaka over Diogo Dalot. But just considering Sheffield United, the game against Sheffield United, Aaron Wan-Bissaka would never score, or I don't see it happening anyways. Sorry, Aaron. But I could never see Aaron Wan-Bissaka scoring the type of goal that Diogo Dalot did. And we're not a defensive type of team. We don't want to invite wingers into our half. And Erik ten Hag clearly wants a fullback that is constantly going to be going forward. The type of fullbacks that he identifies, especially ones that are going to go forward. They're going to make the overlap, cut in from the byline. That's the type of fullbacks he wants. Fullbacks with good crossing ability. Diogo Dalot's crossing ability is okay. It's not the best. Bissaka's isn't even as good as Diogo's, I would say. And Diogo can play both sides, left and right as well. He's ticked that box as well. But for the level that we have now, 100% he has to be Diogo Dalot who starts over Aaron Wan-Bissaka. And he's, like I said before, and I will stay on this hill, is he's the most consistent player. He is the most consistent player for Manchester United right now. Even last season, early at the first half of the season, he was the most consistent player. I think he's one of the first players that probably gets picked on the team sheet as well. I wouldn't be surprised. But with that being said, I do really like Aaron Wan-Bissaka as an option for our right back, because if and when you need a player to come and lock it up, you know, I remember Newcastle game. It was Diogo Dalot against Saint Maximin, and it didn't look good. But then I do also remember when Aaron Wan-Bissaka played against Mitoma in the semi-final, what a job he did as well. So defensively, though, Aaron Wan-Bissaka, nobody comes absolutely close to Aaron Wan-Bissaka. But the shame is that going forward, he's not as good as Diogo Dalot. It's one or the other. HKN Music with a super chat as well. Thank you very much. Says, all Sancho did was reply publicly. It's funny you say all he did. That's not all. He said a lot as well in that public message. But anyways, all Sancho did was reply publicly the same way he was criticized publicly. This is like any workplace. They are not kids. The manager asking for an apology is wild to me. I don't think it's training. ETH does not rate Sancho. I don't think training. Erik ten Hag does not rate Sancho. I think that's what you are saying. The manager asking for an apology is wild to you. I somewhat understand from your perspective, but in football, there is a hierarchy. This is not like I'm sorry, but this is not like a normal 9-to-5 office job. It isn't. You can't just hand your notice in and say, right, I'm out. You can't say, oh, I'm not in the right mindset and my doctor has signed me off. This is a total different environment. You're dealing with multi-million pound assets, the players. There's lots of factors and variables involved. As much as Erik ten Hag asking for an apology is wild, what's more wild to me is why would he say it publicly in the first place? Eric really didn't need to say that publicly, because his match day selection says everything you need to know. That's the biggest thing of it all. We don't need Erik ten Hag to say anything about Donny van de Beek. We can just see it. Every single week, we can see it. Erik ten Hag didn't need to say anything about Cristiano Ronaldo. We saw it last season. How we picked the starting 11. The starting 11 is your biggest statement. So the fact that you didn't pick Jadon Sancho, and then you publicly said why, and then what do you expect now? You can't, I'll be honest, what do you expect? But I understand, before people clip me up and take it out of context, I understand, and I'm aware that there is a hierarchy in football, and you must follow that. And yes, even if you feel like you're hard done by, you should apologize. That's just the hierarchy. You apologize, you move on, you are no lesser of a man or anything else. Erik ten Hag is your senior, clearly. He's the manager, he's the head honcho, and you show that respect. Excuse me. You show that level of respect, and you try and buy him back onto your side by training hard and doing your best. That's all you can do. And guess what? Even after apologizing and trying your level best, if you don't manage to get into Erik ten Hag's team, then that's fine. That is okay. Because the club will eventually have to sell you because you're not being utilized and you're not being played. And they've obviously just spent so much money on you. They're paying such a huge amount of wages. It's not beneficial for the club. So the club will have to eventually make a move anyways. So the best thing is just to apologize. But I remember when the actual public statement came out, every 24 hours, is almost like doubling down, in my opinion. Every time a journalist asks Erik ten Hag his thoughts on Jadon Sancho and he speaks on it, it's doubling down because nobody's apologizing or nobody's going to say anything. In a hierarchy system, you can't really expect the manager to apologize to the player unless the manager feels or it is blatant that the manager's done something critically wrong to the player. Let me see, is there any more super chats? No, there isn't. Also though, oh no, I've just heard Diogo Dalot is joining the press conference. Oh no. No, Beth, I'm really sorry, sweetheart, but you're not, I have to go. My favorite player is doing the press conference and I am not there. I am in absolute, I'm heartbroken. I'm really sorry, but I'm heartbroken. I'm heartbroken. I didn't finish the actual tweet from Fabrizio, though, anyways. Fabrizio had said on Jadon is, those close to Jadon Sancho believe he has his own reasons for not apologizing. He's not crazy and has his own reasons. It looks like a very tense situation between Manchester United coaching staff, the Manchester United board, and Jadon Sancho. The feeling internally is that Jadon will have the opportunity to leave during the January transfer window and try something new. I've heard links to Saudi, which is absolutely funny. It's very funny. Jadon Sancho to Saudi is never happening. It's impossible. Sancho is refusing to back down as well and apologize to Erik ten Hag. And Jadon Sancho will have the opportunity to leave in January. As far as I can make out or I can hear is he's probably going to be linked with 2 clubs in Europe, one in Germany, one in France, one in Germany, one in France, one in Spain. So 3 clubs that I have heard, and I don't have the concrete sources yet, so I can't say which and which, but that's all I have heard. Moving on, there's enough of Jadon Sancho. I'm just really upset. Beth gets to see Diogo Dalot and I don't. Just really upset. I'm sorry, guys. Let me bring up the next super chat. I think it's Shane. Shane says, we got Mason Greenwood. He will be back, believe. I'm going to touch on the Mason Greenwood stuff just shortly. SK says, publicly claimed he respected the staff and decisions. Clearly, that was a lie. Erik ten Hag didn't say anything. It's media making a big deal. Grown-ups apologize. Shows what a person's morals and standards are. Funny. Let me actually debunk this super chat a little bit. You say publicly claimed he respected the staff and decisions. Clearly, that was a lie. Okay, I get that. Fair. Fair that you think Jadon Sancho lied about that. But I'll tell you what, and this is just me playing devil's advocate, Erik ten Hag has said many things in press conferences that makes you think, is that the actual truth? He clearly said that the midfield wasn't the issue when Mason Mount had come into Manchester United and he played Mason Mount and Bruno together. Well, it was. It's blatant. Mark has even said it in his latest stream. The midfield is the one that needs to be sorted. Midfield is still the issue. He said Martial is a key player and he's going to utilize him whenever he's back. Well, he doesn't. He said Cristiano Ronaldo is a player that he's going to use in his team and he's a key player. He has plans with Cristiano Ronaldo. Well, he didn't. He says Harry Maguire is a key player for his team. But as per last season, he isn't. And then Harry Maguire got stripped of the captaincy as well. He says Bruno Fernandes is a great right winger, but the entire fan base, I am yet to see one fan who says Bruno Fernandes is a good right winger. One fan. I mean, I'm thinking of the right back situation as well. Did he say anything about the right back situation? Johnny Evans was a bit funny though, that he was coming for training, but that wasn't something from Erik ten Hag. That was the club. I can't think of any more things, but there are, a couple of things that he has said. that made me think, how is he? What angle is he coming from? So SK, yes, I can understand you think Jadon Sancho may be lying, but that's how he feels. You can't say his feelings are false, though, can you? And you say Erik ten Hag didn't say anything, it's media making a big deal. That I do agree with. I'll be very honest, I do agree with, because in my opinion, him saying, I wanted more football is actually crazy. I'll be deadly honest. I've not spoken on this, but I'll speak on this now since I'm just on this. To take off Champions League, numerous Champions League winning Casemiro, and bring on Christian Eriksen and say you wanted more football. What do you mean by that? What is more football? Scott McTominay scoring a last-minute header from a Harry Maguire assist isn't more football. Diogo Dalot scoring an absolute world-class wonder goal isn't more football. What do you mean by that, Eric? More football. And Casemiro, the professional that he is, he didn't actually say anything. And funny, he brought on Eriksen, but I don't think Eriksen was actually involved in making anything happen. It was Bruno's long ball to Maguire, Maguire to Scott McTominay, and we got a bit lucky. But I don't understand that more football comment. Casemiro is a highly established player that he obviously okayed to have in Manchester United, and now he then goes in on him like that, saying he wants more football. And I think it's someone says he means more flowing football, but there are many different ways of wording this. Some of you will sit there and have a bubble of protection around your manager, and that's fair. But I will always say it as I feel, and I don't like the way he said that he wanted more football after taking Casemiro off. He didn't need to say it like that. He didn't need to. I'll be honest. Casemiro is a world-class defensive midfielder. World class. We had the great Gustavo Poyet on the show, I remember, on transfer deadline day, who had said that Kroos and Modric were great midfielders, but it was Casemiro who made that midfield win the Champions Leagues. So it's the choice of wording. That's what I'm talking on more than anything. You can speak on things many different ways, but it's the choice of wording. Sorry, ladies and gentlemen, but I will have a little side segment where I have to tell the producer and Beth to get me a Diogo Dalot picture, because I need to add it to my collection of pictures that I have. So please, thank you. And tell him that Faz loves him, please. Promise me you will do that? Thank you very much. Anyways, moving on. I was speaking on Erik ten Hag and Casemiro. Now that Casemiro is not in the team, I'm hearing that Amrabat is isolated as well. Beth, please make sure you tell Diogo Dalot that I love him, please. Please. Yeah, now that Amrabat is in the team and Casemiro's out for a little while, I'm interested to see how this midfield works, but it's choice of words. Like I was saying, ladies and gentlemen, for me, it is the choice of words that I don't like. Moving on, anyways, moving on. I think there's another super chat. If I haven't missed it, I don't want to miss any super chats. Let me just bring it up. HKN Music says, not only did he slate Casemiro, he left Bruno on, who's been spamming balls this whole season. But you take off 5-time Champions League winner. Erik ten Hag says some crazy things. Well, I'm glad that it's not just me thinking similar thoughts. Yeah, it's not just me thinking these similar thoughts. And you know what? Erik ten Hag, in many questions in press conferences, he has his meticulous way of answering questions. So he knows what he's saying. He knows what he's saying, 100%. But to say you want more football and take off Casemiro, I don't like that. I absolutely didn't like. He could have just said it's a tactical decision. I wanted a tactical change, so I made a tactical decision. Like I say, you can say things in very, very grey method where people don't really make much of it. But your words are very sharp. He says things very direct sometimes, and it makes you wonder what he's really thinking. It does make you wonder. Brian says Bruno needs to keep the ball more than Hollywood passes. I agree, but that's something he's not going to do, Brian, because in my humble opinion, I don't think he can do that. He's a humongously amazing player when it comes to a counter-attacking football team system. But in the system that we want to play, I don't see Bruno Fernandes being able to hold the ball anyways, because he's so poor when it comes to being pressed from the back or from the front. He'll lose the ball very, very easily. Someone says, so you guys want the manager to speak the way you want? I don't think you're listening to the show properly. It's not that, nobody ever said that. It's choice of words. The managers can say things many different ways. He can say things in positive ways. He can also say things in negative ways. But as a manager in press conferences, you try and make sure you manage people's expectations. I mean, funny enough, he had great words to say about Harry Maguire whilst he kept Harry Maguire captain last season. Please. This is not me making the things up. This is things what is in front of you, but you're looking at it in a different perspective to me. That's only the difference. He kept Harry Maguire as a captain, and he said great things about him, and then he took the captaincy off him and gave it to Bruno Fernandes. People weren't complaining then, though, because Harry Maguire wasn't playing. That's all it was. But I like I say, I call things as I see it. And his choice of words sometimes is like, okay, it's very grey, it's okay. I mean, funny, the thing he said about Rashford, he was being positive about Rashford, and people, the whole world almost is criticising Rashford when he's been positive about Rashford. He's backing his player. Whereas when it comes to certain other players, he says certain things and it makes you wonder. That's all the thing is, it makes you wonder. Moving on to Mason Greenwood, there is a little bit on Mason Greenwood that I will touch on. Let me just bring it up for you all. Where is it gone? Let me just bring it up, guys. I apologize. There it is. Mason Greenwood, this is reported from The Sun, so take it with a pinch of salt. Mason Greenwood is loving life in Spain and wants to turn his Getafe loan move permanent. Well, then, do people still think Mason Greenwood has a future in Manchester United? Again, I am going to be brutally honest, and if people don't like my brutal honesty, then I'm sorry. But I find it, ladies and gentlemen, I find it very interesting the sheer amount of media coverage that Mason Greenwood has been receiving since he's joined Getafe. Find it very, very interesting. If you haven't seen it on YouTube, I think it was Getafe, yeah, Getafe, they put out a video, almost like a documentary-esque video of how they made this deal happen on deadline day. And it's interesting. It's very interesting. And then since Mason Greenwood has joined Getafe, I see loads of videos and pictures, and they treat him like Ronaldo gets treated in Saudi almost. All the media coverage, and it's interesting. And I don't know, is it an instruction from Manchester United, or is it just because Getafe actually think they're very blessed to have a player like Mason Greenwood? Now, again, I'm going to break things down and I'm going to get at it bit by bit, so do bear with me. Mason Greenwood hadn't played football for nearly 2 years. Was it above 2 years, producer? I think something like that. 2 years. The sheer amount of media frenzy around that whole situation was an absolute, handled with absolute mess by Manchester United. We can all agree on that. Some people would even say that Manchester United wanted him back, and then after they saw the fans and the response, they turned their mind, they changed their mind. Okay. Numerous clubs came for him on deadline day, and they couldn't make the deal happen. Now, this is where I look at things with a magnifying glass almost. This is where I find things very absurd. So many clubs came for Mason Greenwood, right? A handful of clubs. And they struggled to make the deal happen until Getafe came in the last hour. And what was it? They made the deal happen in the last 15, 20 minutes of the transfer window. I have a theory, and this is just my theory. This is nobody else. This is simply my theory. And I've spoken to some fans who I speak to, who message me sometimes. I've spoken to them about this. My theory is Manchester United probably said to the loanee club that if you loan this player, we expect you to do this whole media plan for him to get the PR and to get the positive PR up. And some clubs have probably declined. Because it couldn't be the wage thing. It couldn't be that. If Manchester United want to loan a player, I mean, push comes to shove, they'll just pay majority of the wages. They've done that before. So it couldn't be that. For me, I feel like it must have been something to do with the media stuff. Yeah. I don't know what you guys think. Do you guys agree, disagree? Comment down below. Do you have any theories anyways? I really haven't watched Mason Greenwood, in all honesty. I did know that he was going to come back, which I put it out there on Twitter exclusively. And he did come back. He is still a Manchester United player. So is he going to come back in January? He's got a callback option for January. Is he going to come back? We'll see. Or summer, we will see. Now that Jadon Sancho looks like he's going to be possibly leaving Manchester United, and there's lots of talks on Jadon Sancho leaving Manchester United. Watch this space with Mason Greenwood. That's going to be very, very, very interesting, how Manchester United deal with this. And like I say, I see all of these media stuff about Mason Greenwood, and I find it very, very interesting and funny, because we don't see these type of things for any other players that go on loan or anything at all. But obviously it's Manchester United, so it's the biggest news in the world. Mason with a super chat. Thank you, Mason says, "You're my favorite presenter on the United stand. Only one player has more Champions League medals than Casemiro. That comment from Ten Hag was extremely patronizing." Firstly, I appreciate your kind words, Mason. Thank you very much. And like I say, I'm glad there are fans out there who look at things from a different perspective as well. But I really appreciate your kind words. Thank you very much. HKN Music says, "Erik Ten Hag is used to managing kids at Ajax." Well, I wouldn't say kids, but younger players for sure, yeah. Much more earlier on in their career, sure. "United have men. You have to manage them differently. Can't have favourites. Pick players on form, not who you like." HKN, it's very interesting you say that, because I watched the Zlatan Ibrahimovic interview, and in that interview, Zlatan had said that, you know, look at his experience. His experience at Ajax, his experience at Bayern, his experience at Utrecht, Go Ahead Eagles. Look at all those experiences that he had, and the type of players he was managing, the age range, the caliber, where the players have come from. Look at the players he was managing. And from that to Manchester United, look at the players he's managing. In Manchester United, there are players who let's be honest, are undroppable. Luke Shaw comes in, he's going to start playing straight away. Marcus Rashford, who you're going to drop for Marcus Rashford? Doesn't matter what you think, just think of it from the organisation's perspective. Marcus Rashford, star boy, face of Manchester United. Bruno Fernandes, captain. Not going to drop him, is he? So the difference in managing organisations is colossal. Absolutely colossal. So that I agree with that. And you can't, listen, 100% he's going to be learning on the job, because managing Manchester United is like no other. It's not an everyday thing, and it's not every club thing. So we saw that with David Moyes, for example, as well. 100% he's going to be learning on the job. So, yeah, I agree. Tom says Erik ten Hag has failed to introduce a reliable pattern of play and has very poor man management skills. He's on the way out. Tom, again, I somewhat agree with you on, especially. I don't know if he's on his way out though. I don't think it's his. I don't think he's on his way out, but his man management is somewhat. Yeah, I would say it's interesting. I don't think it's questionable. Every manager has their own way of managing players, but it's interesting because I hear sometimes players talk about Jose, players talk about Klopp, for example, Kevin Prince Boateng. I heard a little bit of an interview of his and the way he speaks about Klopp, you know, Jurgen Klopp, the way he speaks on, for example, De Zerbi. I remember there are players who from Chelsea or, you know, other teams who spoke on Jose Mourinho. I remember Kieran Trippier speaking on Diego Simeone. Yeah, it's interesting how players speak on their managers. And on the other side, Aaron Wan-Bissaka has said some nice things about Erik ten Hag and how he's learned things from Erik ten Hag as well. But yeah, it's interesting. It is interesting. He has his ways of managing players. Carrymore, thank you very much for your super chat. I hope you're doing well. Well, the super chat says, we are where we are with Sancho and lines have been drawn. Doesn't matter to me who was wrong, but if Sancho comes back without apologizing, I'll be very disappointed in Erik ten Hag. Yeah, I think Jadon Sancho, Jadon Sancho cannot come back without apologizing. That's just how it is. Yeah, that's just how it is. Jadon Sancho cannot come back without apologizing, because then what would it say to the whole world, about the manager's ability and his authority in the club? There has to be authority. So yeah, I agree. He has to. Anyways, Paul says, bloody hell, I dropped off to sleep. Where are we? Paul, someone must have kept you up last night, mate. If you're falling asleep now, it's 10 to 11 in the morning, mate. If you're falling asleep now, you need a coffee, and someone's clearly been keeping you up last night. Last 10 minutes of the show, last couple of minutes, I'm going to touch on how we've recently been performing. Look, I'm really not happy with the way we're playing. I'll be deadly honest. I think Manchester United are lacking any type of identity at all, and it's clear that the system that he wants to play, the players aren't able to execute it on the pitch. Whether that's the players' fault or the manager's fault, it's the team's fault. Everybody's part of the team. And he has to go back to the drawing board and address this as soon as possible. He's throwing almost, you know, the kitchen sink at the game sometimes. And I can understand that that's his in-game management, that he's trying to get the points and just stir the ship into a bit of a winning way so the players can get comfortable and a bit more confident, because losing clearly you know, doesn't help the team at all. And yes, the football isn't attractive to watch, it isn't, but it's just one of those things where the players just need to keep grinding out and get the results. And eventually, once the confidence starts building, I think hopefully they can start implementing their style a little bit. The extreme amount of obsession on style of play, for me anyways, has gone out the window. At this point, I couldn't care less about style of play. We're 6 points behind from top of the league. Are we going to be in a title charge? 100% no. Don't clip me up. I don't think, no way we're going to be in a title charge. But we should definitely be looking to aim for the same place we finished last season. This is where I draw the line, and I'm going to put it out on record, and I've said it before. Erik ten Hag must not go backwards from last season. He can't. It's like how? He has had a better window. He's had, doesn't matter. who he didn't get. I'm not going to, let's at all do this. It does not matter who he didn't get. He didn't get Kane, he wanted Osimhen, he wanted Kim Min-jae, he wanted X, Y, and Z. Doesn't matter. Nobody gets everybody they want. Nobody. Liverpool wanted Caicedo, and they bid 100 and odd million. They didn't get him. They ended up getting Endo, Szoboszlai, Ryan Gravenberch. Nobody gets the players they want. Man City wanted a player as well. They didn't end up getting the player they want. It is what it is. But he's got better players than last season. This is absolute borderline fact. He has got better players than last season. He has had more time with these players, and he cannot go backwards. How does it look with not the money? I'm not going to talk about the money, because the spending of money is not his fault. Okay, as much as you guys might not like what I'm saying, but the spending of the money is not his fault. That's the club, that's the negotiations, whatever. But what would it look like from the amount of players that he's brought in and the type of players he's brought in if he doesn't come at least third this season? How does that look? And other teams are getting better. And I say it straight up is, Arteta came the same position twice. Well, true, he came the same position twice. He didn't go backwards. He came the same position twice in 2 seasons. Klopp came the same position twice in 2 seasons. Jose Mourinho, Ole Gunnar Solskjaer, they went one better than their first season. In their second season, they did better. But then eventually things didn't work out and they got sacked. Why is it any different for Erik ten Hag for me to be expecting him to do the same or better than last season? The fact is, ladies and gentlemen, everybody here, there's so many of you watching. Did any of you, once we came third last season, did any of you sit there and think, okay, we actually deserve to be 6th, let's come 6th the second season? Did any of you say it? Please comment down below, because I would love to have a conversation with you. I would absolutely love to have a conversation with you, maybe, privately, and I'd love to understand what people think, because people will say, for example, Ryan, the producer, was saying to me this morning that he overachieved. No, what do you mean overachieved? There's no such thing as Liverpool and Chelsea underachieving. You get the points that you're like the way you perform. He performed, he won, he came third. There's no such thing as, it's not by luck that you end up third in the Premier League, by the way. It's not luck. You don't end up third or second or whatever position in the league by luck. You have to grind out results. If you're poor, you're going to get relegated. If you're okay, you're going to stay mid-table. If you're good, you're going to be in the top half of the table. That's how the Premier League works. So for me, he has to turn this around with 6 points off the top, which says to a casual fan that, oh, Man United are doing okay, but we're clearly not. There are other teams in the league that are absolutely looking like they're going to be flying this season. And people have patience, and 100%, but for me, he cannot go backwards than last season. He can't. John says it was luck. How can it be luck? How can you get lucky and come third is beyond. I don't understand it. I'll be deadly honest. I don't understand it. John again says Anthony is a one-trick pony. Let me see. Is there any other chat that I can see? There isn't any. Mario says I want to see some identity. I just want Erik ten Hag to do the same or better than last season. It's not luck he ended up in 2 cup finals, by the way. It is not luck. Was every goal that we scored last season a lucky goal? No, it wasn't. He found answers. I said it on forums. You guys heard me. I said, Manchester United are Solutions FC. Who remembers that? There's so many of you watching this show. Who remembers last season when I gave Manchester United the nickname Solutions FC? And this season, I've given them a nickname 20 Minutes FC. And like I say, I'm honest. People don't like my opinion. People don't like the way I keep it direct. But that's what we are, 20 Minutes FC. Producer Greg will vouch, Ryan will vouch. Numerous games this season, I have said Manchester United are going to concede in the next 7 minutes, and they have. I'm sorry, I hate to predict it. And I also predict, by the way, that Copenhagen will score. I hope I'm wrong. I hope I'm wrong. But I have a feeling Copenhagen are going to score first tomorrow. I don't know why. Copenhagen scored first against Bayern Munich. They scored first against Galatasaray when they played away. They are looking, they're not getting the results. And I've watched their games, and it's very interesting the way they play. Very, very interesting. I think we'll win tomorrow. I do think we'll win tomorrow, but I have a feeling they're going to score first. And I hope I'm wrong. I hope they don't score at all. But we'll wait and see, you know, tournament football, how Erik ten Hag sets out his team, his lineup, his midfield. I expect Anthony to get a goal tomorrow because, you know, and Rasmus Højlund as well. Rasmus is flying in the Champions League, which is a positive. So, oh, someone says Moments FC. Yeah, that's another one I said as well. Patrick says, played pub teams in cup at home. Okay, you could say that, but we still had to win them. We still had to win them. We still had to beat Brighton in the semi-final. Did we not? So, yeah, must win tomorrow, says Trevor. It is. It is a must win tomorrow. How would you guys feel if he doesn't win tomorrow, or we end up drawing? That's going to be a big topic. But I do think Manchester United will win tomorrow. I do think so, but we will see what happens. I will be live later on with the press conference as well, the reaction to the press conference. But thank you all for tuning in. I really, really appreciate that. I will see you later on today in a few hours with the press conference. Make sure you like the video if you haven't already. Once the video is live as well, comment down below with your thoughts on the show. If you disagree, agree, or anything else you want to pick up on. And subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. Thank you all very much for spending the beautiful morning with me, or night, or wherever you are. Some people are falling asleep because they've been busy last night. But yeah, I will catch you on the next one. Take care, people.